Welcome to the NewTubers Podcast, the premier small YouTuber community, helping up-and-coming channels improve through critiques, feedback, and cooperation. We teach you how to start, build, and sustain your YouTube career. Now, without further ado, let's begin the show!
Hello, NewTubers. My name is Bolt, and I'm one of the directors here at NewTubers, and today we're bringing you another episode in our creator interview series. Today's guests are the Find the Computer Room crew, a predominantly Let's Play channel that's seen just about everything there is to see here on the platform. In today's episode, they discuss the history of their channel dating back over a decade, talk about their content shifts over the years, the occasional struggles of having an audience built up over that 10-year period, and having an audience that was, for some of the channel's life, predominantly built up on one franchise, in this case, Sonic the Hedgehog. Later on, we discuss advice that they have for upcoming creators based on their experiences, and we end off by talking about their charity livestream events, which over the past few years have raised tens of thousands of dollars for some wonderful causes. A small note before we begin, we ran into a small audio issue with one of the FTCR crew, TJ, but only his introduction was lost. When he pops back in, obviously he's the voice that hasn't spoken yet. With that cleared up, let's dive right in and chat with the guys at FTCR.
Hello, I'm FTA, the evil overlord of this terrible, terrible channel.
I'm Ikonos fan who spoke just as TJ was speaking.
That won't confuse anybody. So, what do you guys do on YouTube first and foremost?
We do terrible Let's Plays, terrible movie reviews, terrible audio commentaries. Pretty much just throw a dart and you find an average YouTube channel that does terrible, cliched content, and we do it, but worse than everyone else.
Okay, sounds good. So, give me a little bit of the history of the channel first and foremost. You guys have been around nearing on, 10 years now?
We just passed 10 years, technically speaking. Like, when the channel first went online back in, May time of 2007. We don't, I kind of class it as November 30th, 2007 is us properly, because that's when we launched the first version of the now dead forever website, which will never come back again. To give it a brief overview, FTCR started about 10 years ago. It was me and a very good friend of mine, Torch. Originally, it was just going to be a Sonic sprite comic, because God knows the internet needed one more of those. We'd been influenced. There was this strip called, I believe it's called Power Rings, and it featured the advanced sprites, which is one reason why I liked it, because I think everyone at that point was doing the Mega Drive sprites. I was like, nah, I like the advanced sprites, the more detailed we have here. And so we had a bunch of stories written. We actually made 2 strips, and they're both terrible, and maybe they'll find their way online at some point. And then so originally it was just going to be a comic strip, and then at that point I was kind of really heavily into the online Transformers fan base. I would go to message boards back when those were still a thing and do shit like that, and there was and do stuff like that. And there was this Irish fan who had been contacted by the license rights holders for the old 80s G1 cartoon on DVD. It was a company called Metronome in England, and they contacted this fan called Chris McFeely, who was probably one of the bigger names in the online Transformers fan base, who he'd been contacted to do some audio commentaries for some of their DVD releases. And then after he did some of those, he just started recording and releasing commentaries for random episodes. Unfortunately, he only did 2, which is a shame because they were very entertaining. And after listening to those, I thought, oh, okay, we can do that for some of the old Sonic cartoons. And so Torch and I started doing those. In fact, I think some of our first YouTube uploads back when you can only upload 10 minutes at a time on YouTube, the kind of content ID craze was not as strong, so you would just get full movies and TV shows of anything. So we would just upload commentary, our commentaries like that. And then as time went on, Torch is a very busy man. He's a lot smarter than I am, so he went and got himself a real job and gave up, talking about cartoon characters online.
How dare he?
I wish I could trade places with him. But then eventually, after a number of years, and after doing things with other commentary groups like HFC and Commander Commentaries, and I think at that point, I had done stuff with Brain Scratch at that point. then we started doing LPs. I was finally able to get a hashtag hoppage to record something, and then me and Sega Sky did the Sonic 4 Episode 1 LP, and then from then we've just gotten worse and worse with our content. I think that's pretty much a brief beginning of the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
May I interject with a question?
sure.
Okay, I'm the Golden Bolt, and I have a question for you, the real FTA. Those commentaries that Chris McFeely guy did, how influential was that? Was he like informative, or was he like comedic based?
He was a lot more informative. He is like I haven't kept up with him, but he was like a walking encyclopedia. It's like he would know all these facts, and he would cross-reference them with other episodes. Like his commentary for the Transformers the movie DVD, it's just like 80 minutes of just pure information, and it's fascinating to listen to.
So he's like us with Sonic, but about Transformers, but he uses his powers for good.
Kind of. He's a like, again, I haven't all of these commentaries were recorded over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And so at least back then, like he would throw in like an odd like a joke here and there just based on what he was seeing. And I think if you go back and listen to some of our earlier stuff, we were nowhere near as meme-tastic and just like what are you talking about as we've become now. But I would say definitely in the beginning I was definitely an influence, and I think if you go back to listen to some of those early cartoon commentaries, I think me and Torch were far more informative, kind of, than just trying to be like, oh, look at that, that's dumb, look at it, how funny, look at the stupid stuff like on screen's doing, what a jerk. That's unfortunately what we've become now. Please look forward to our upcoming LP of Sonic Forces.
Here's Mephiles the Dark Google searching if a chicken or an egg came first.
Yeah, Chris McFeely never did any of that, no, but...
Yeah, so
yeah.
for anyone who's not familiar, FTCR is, I often call them the memeiest channel on YouTube. And that's
I'm not sure if that's an insult or
that's
compliment.
praise.
Really not.
A lot of their LPs, they actually put a ton of effort into them after the fact. Like during, like you guys will like just, you know, make jokes and crack jokes and all that, but Sonic 06 comes to mind first, because you guys did the entirety of Sonic 06, cut out every loading screen, and you did it in order of like what happens at the start to what happens at the end, instead of splitting it into 3 campaigns. And that had to be a ton of work, but it came out hilariously.
In fact, I mean that was all Smoothies. Smoothies' idea. I think the idea for doing it all in order, that came from back in the day. Smoothies had his channel back when he was known as Sonic Movies all those years ago. His channel was, he would just take games and he would condense them into a movie. He would cut out all the fat, and put everything in a logical story order, to make it as short as possible. We found when recording LPs, we now we definitely try to make them as short as possible. Just because, you know, as we do sometimes make it a bit memey, that can wear thin.
We also have trouble getting
while.
everyone together, so if the playthrough is shorter, it's a lot easier to schedule that stuff.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's a lot easier to be like, everyone come together for one day. Not, I mean, even 06, that took multiple weeks, which is why I think TJ and Chris, like, I mean, like 5 parts, then they miss a few, then they're back for a few, you know, what have you.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Yeah, which we don't really have lives, but sometimes they do. But so to go to your, the thing about the LPs, at least I think me and Chris, not so much TJ, because TJ, you know, provides nothing to this channel, so I'm not even sure why he's here. But
good Skeletor though.
Yeah, he does. TJ's here for the impressions and singing and shouting marathon. That's why he's here. But I think at least when I pick a LP, I try to think, you know, should this be a normal LP? Should this be a LP where I put a lot of jokes in up front? Because it's like, in the 06 LP, pretty much everything was put in before we recorded the commentary. All of the jokes, nothing was added in post. I don't believe so. All of the jokes were in the raw footage we watched. And sometimes, at least the ones I've done, like say the Mega Man LPs, all of the jokes are put into the raw footage. And when you have something like, say, DuckTales Remastered, with the exception of the Count Duckula joke in the last part, everything on, like, all of the extra stuff on screen was added in post. Yeah. And sometimes that's easy because I'm able to, like, hear somebody say something that, I can use this, I can use what Chris is saying to put in a funny thing on screen. And I think Stefan does that a lot when he edits in post. I think Stefan sometimes will put a lot in in pre as well. But I think it's just ultimately it's just if the game merits it, because I kind of regret doing editing so much stuff to the Mega Man OPs, because those got very tedious to edit.
Yeah.
As the time went on, like I should have not wasted my time.
Now, one thing you mentioned a little bit is that you try and both sometimes cut back and sometimes push forward on like the memes and the jokes and all that. Have you noticed any sort of relationship between like how much you guys are like just throwing jokes out and the success of the LP, either in terms of viewership or consistent viewership over the course of the LP?
Not really. I think most of that already just has to do with what game it is.
That's what I figured, because you guys have a very specific fan base of Sonic fans for a lot of your audience, is one thing that I've noticed throughout the years.
Yeah, which, to be fair to the fan, I mean, that's kind of what to expect when you were primarily a Sonic-only channel for the first 8 years. I think it was just got to a point about roughly around the time of 06, where it was just like, I think all of us were, to a certain extent, it's been like, okay, what Sonic game are we doing next? And then we also really, like, we're kind of starting to get burnt out on doing Sonic OPs, and also the fact that if we did nothing but Sonic OPs, there would come a point where we'd have nothing left, because there are only a finite. I know, like, they come out with new games every few years or what have you, but there would come a point where like we have nothing left to talk about. That's why we started throwing in the new stuff, and I think it's a combination of how well known the game is and how memey it is, because like B-movie game, like that did really well for us view wise. I think people were just like, it's the B-movie meme again, let's watch it.
Yeah.
Because I think both that and because normally when we upload full audio commentaries, like it might take a couple of weeks or a month before we'll crack like 1,000 views, but B-movie movie commentary is probably the most watched audio commentary we've uploaded to YouTube.
Which is unfortunate, because I feel like we've done better.
I know. I feel that one's funnier. Like it's not very informative at all. It's mostly just us laughing at the movie. But I think there's some funny stuff in the movie commentary.
I feel like I wouldn't want an informative B-movie commentary. Like, what's the point?
Because it's just like one of the I wouldn't say it's one of the worst, but it's like it's one of the most, why was this movie made movies of all time, you know? It's like, why, what possessed Jerry Seinfeld? The first thing Seinfeld does in 10 years is this crappy CGI movie about bees. Like, what was he thinking about making that?
I feel like if you somehow do want that informative B-movie commentary, it's right there on the DVD. Like,
that's probably
I don't know who outside of that movie can provide an informative commentary on that movie.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they can.
Is there even a commentary on that DVD?
Maybe on the Very Jerry Special Edition.
So one thing I want to jump back to real quick, just to clarify for our viewers. One thing you guys do is you don't always do live LPs, which is why you mentioned earlier about the footage. Sometimes you have it all ready and you just watch the footage and record you talking over that. So sometimes you'll do, essentially, one of the people in the team will do 2 passes through of what they're doing. They'll play it, they'll edit it, and then they give it to you to play it and edit it again, essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, typically, unless it's a thing where somebody gets very busy, normally whoever records the game does all the work for it.
Yeah.
I think there's a few exceptions, like I think MBM didn't have the time to edit the commentary for A Link to the Past. And I know Smoothies got burnt out on doing LPs for a while, so like he recorded footage for Sonic 2 on the Master System, but he was like, I'm not gonna edit the audio because I don't want to. Leave me alone. So like, okay, I'll do it. But yeah, typically I think pretty much every game I've recorded, I've done the audio. I've done all the editing for. And I think Chris has with his.
I think so.
But I think that's because I think you like to do that kind of stuff. I don't think, even if somebody offered, I don't think you would really relinquish that.
I would, just because like I have a weird, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a control thing, but like it's if somebody is gonna insult the LP, like, oh, this was not fun, this was badly edited, I'd rather it be like, I did it, you know, it's my LP, blame me, just because, you know, also just because, you know, Chris can't edit. You, Chris. Edit that out. I'm sorry.
Footage. That should say everything.
I'll leave it in. That's fine.
No, I mean, you should at least directed that at me, because that's true.
Who invited Stefan? Oh, that's TJ. I will say there's also just something kind of oddly satisfying about editing, even if you're just doing like, I'm going to put this audio track here and balance everything, once you get into a groove and like you've been doing it for like a half hour, it's just kind of like, all right, yeah, this is fun. This is how I want to spend my time. So I think
you get a lot done in a short
aspect.
time. So it's like that progress almost.
It's also really good to edit a commentary where David the Lurker's been in it, because he'll go on like minute-long tangents. So I can okay, I can just edit his audio track. That's 2 minutes of the OP done. Go then, like, I'll speak for a couple seconds. MBM speaks for a couple seconds. Back to David T. Lurker for another 2 minit's. So he makes audio editing very easy.
2 minutes is being generous. Very, very generous.
It's funny because when I was editing the Sonic Mania OP, there's a lot of chunks where it's like I'll speak for a lot of time, and then David will speak for a lot of time, and then Steven will be like, "This level's terrible. The cutter on the floor don't make any sense," and then like David will talk for a little more time, you know.
Another thing that I do want to mention, since we're talking about Smoothies and David the Lurker and all that, you guys do have a very large rotating cast of people that will show up from LP to LP. Is that something you've noticed has had an effect on, say, long-term viewership or even short-term viewership in any way?
Anything with Johnny does way better.
Yes, some call me Johnny. Yes.
Some call me profitable.
Oh, yes, I am.
You know what? I think it's just because back in the day it was just me and Torch for a long time, and then as I got to become good friends with Steven and Sky, they would come in, and I think for a while, at least when we first started doing LPs, it was mainly just me, Steven, and Sky for a bit. We used to do things.
Should probably clarify. Steven is Smoothies.
I apologize. Steven is Smoothies and Sky is Sega Sky. You know, and I know that one's hard to figure out, but Sky is Sega Sky. We would do a thing back. Like, if you go back to watch some of our really early LPs, and even still some of the more recent ones, we would do a thing where we would have like one guest per part, and I think along the way some of those guests just started becoming full members. Like I think David T. Lurker and MBM to a certain extent, actually especially MBM, we would just have them on random parts because we liked them, and then after that I was just like, MBM, just come join us because we love your company. It's like, okay. And like we haven't officially like said David being FTCR, but I kind of count David as an FTCR member now because he's been in so many LPs. I mean, he's just fun to. It's fun to just be like David, explain the Japanese lore of this game, and he'll go on for like an hour.
Oh God, yes.
So
David has his fingers in many pies, so he's a full member in a lot of places.
But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say. I would say it, in a certain extent it has helped us because I think to a certain degree. I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing. In a certain degree, it helps keep things fresh. In the sense that, like, if you watch a Brain Scratch LP, like, you know for a fact you're gonna get the 4 main people and maybe an extra guest here or there, and which, you know, some people may prefer that consistency, and I completely understand that. But I kind of like how, typically speaking, unfortunately, you're gonna get stuck with me in an LP, so I apologize for that. But like, you know, in this LP, we could have, you know, Smoothies, Chris, and MBM, and then in the next one we could have MBM, Stefan, Skylar, David T. Lurker, and like maybe Clement as well. So I think it helps. Keeps things.
It's like a psychological thing for you guys almost, and then like, so it might help psychologically, but it might not help necessarily analytically.
Kind of. I mean, also, I think sometimes we kind of try and tailor who's in what LP. Because obviously, if it's like, sometimes, you know, I'll be like, I'm recording this game. Who wants to be in it? And then like Chris would be like, I have no idea what that game is. No thanks. And TJ's like, yeah, me neither. And then, you know, MBM could be like, oh, I love that game. I want to be in it. And you know,
usually it's I have no idea what this game is. I'll be in.
yeah. And sometimes MBM's like, I don't give a shit. I'll be in that LP. It's fine.
Just a troll.
Just a troll, and that's why we love it. But
I'll add that I read every single comment FTCR gets, and we don't get a lot of comments that are like, oh, you know, where's Steven in this, or where's TJ? Like, usually we just bring in someone wacky or weird, and everyone's like, oh, hey, they're here, they're back. It's not really like I came here for X and X isn't here kind of thing.
That makes sense, especially since you guys did establish very early on, once you started doing LPs, that it might have been consistent for a little bit, but now it's just accepted that you guys have whoever wants to be in, and that brings the best to every LP.
Yeah. The only thing we try and hit. I'm sorry, after you.
I was just going to say, the main thing we try and hit with that is just to have like a core set for each LP. Like, Gareth and I really like Splatoon out of everyone in FTCR, so for every part we tried to have him and I there for it, along with the guest. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I will say the only caveat to what Chris said, we don't have like Y is an X in this LP, but since the '06 LP, we will have why didn't Smoothies edit this? that is the one thing that is the one comment we do get a lot now since that LP.
Yeah.
If any of the viewers out there are fans of Sonic in any way, or you watching people just destroy Sonic 06, I am serious. That is the best Sonic 06 LP on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
I
much.
loved that so much. But speaking as a fan, I want to jump back. I do know, at least from my experience when I first started watching, it was a little confusing at points with having, say you have FTA and you have Chris and you have whoever. It was tough with a lot of LPs. It's always tough to get the voices lined up and see, okay, this is this person, this is that person. So with new viewers, like, do you notice that new viewers ever have that issue either? I know they might not comment.
I wouldn't say not so much on FTC. I have noticed though sometimes on Brain Scratch on parts where I'm in, I'll occasionally see a comment being like, "Who the hell is that British guy? Shut the up," type of thing. But on FTC, because I think not to put down our audience in any way, but I think we have kind of a slightly smaller core audience. I think most people who watch our stuff, and specifically those who comment on our LPs, tend to kind of know us.
They're part of that core.
Yeah, aside from because '06 did crazy good numbers for us. So I think outside of '06, not too many. I don't think our LPs kind of penetrate our kind of inner circle of fans. So I don't think we've really come across that too often.
So jumping forward a little bit, what would you say as of right now are the goals of FTCR as a channel or even as a brand, whatever you want to go with?
To shut down the channel.
A big thing for me is just trying to keep content coming. I know it's sometimes I think we have trouble is because we all for the most part work full-time jobs in different days, and we have different things going on. Sometimes it is hard to. I know for me, sometimes it's hard just to find time to record stuff or edit stuff.
As a father, yeah.
Yes.
We should also add that we have all these members. A lot of them are around the world, so there's a lot of different time zones. Like if our friend Miwa wants to get in, she lives in Japan, so there's just a lot of coordinating with that stuff that gets in the way.
Yeah, with Miwa in Japan, we have like Sky and such on the West Coast. What was that, East Coast? I keep forgetting my coasts. Well, because we're East Coast, East Side represent. So like we have to plan in for like that. And sometimes if our junior sidekick Aaron wants to join in, sometimes because he's on that side as well. Like there's things like that, and then it's just finding time. Because unfortunately, there's been days where multiple times just say like we plan to do something. And there's like, oh, X has happened. I haven't got time today because I think unfortunately Chris doesn't have a set schedule at work. So there'll be times
retail baby.
Yeah, there'll be times when we say that like we're gonna record this game on Saturday, and then Saturday morning Chris is like, I have to work today, and it's like because I think we planned to do something a few weeks ago, and we're still trying to find a new date to be able to do it now.
Yeah.
Life sucks.
Life just gets in the way. That's how it is for everybody, I think, a lot of the time.
Well, I think the other thing, and Gareth has talked to me about this a couple times, and I don't think you and I have revisited it again, but you did mention that you want to transition more into like more multimedia stuff. So, I mean, you and I have tried to accomplish that with Same Great Taste and the movie commentaries, so more stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think
video games.
At least for me, just because pretty much I'd say 90% of all the things that involve me that are on YouTube are game LPs, and I love doing them. I love doing the game. I love being in them. I love just shooting the shit with friends about a bad or good game. But part of me is I think doing other stuff helps me.
It keeps you fresh.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps me because I think if we just did game LPs, I would seriously get burnt out after a while.
Yeah. I mean, you've been doing it for what, 7 years at least on the LP side, just about.
If you include the HFC stuff, it might be coming up closer to 10. I forget whenever we did. Wow. No, it is because I remember the first.
The realization's setting in.
The first thing me and N Tom ever did was a commentary of the Sonic OVA, and we recorded that January 18th, 2008. I remember that because it was right after I saw Cloverfield. And I saw that the day it came out. So it was.
Wasn't that the day you went to your dad's?
No, that was June 23rd. You fool. That was the day I left you home alone. So yeah. So I mean, if you include that, and then I think we started doing SA1 a few months after that. So it's probably coming up to be 10 years of LPs that I've done. And then I look back and just think, what have I done with my life?
So I don't blame you for possibly over time getting burned out on that, because I mean, I see channels that get burned out after 1 year of LPs, let alone 10.
I mean, so especially Sonic, because like I've done it. There's only so many times you can look at a Sonic game and be like, this game is bad.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping that at some point the Sonic social media team will get bored of making Sonic jokes, but it's been like 2 years and they haven't, so maybe they won't.
That's what gets the views. One thing I want to ask about is the performance of that newer non-LP content. I know what really got me to start following FTCR more, I don't want to say properly, but more consistently, was Chris, you did your Learning to Love PlayStation reviews on there. And I started seeing those and I was like, ooh, I like game reviews. And so I started watching those, and it really got me more invested in the channel as a whole through that medium.
And then he took those videos and made his own channel.
Off the channel.
You used those for exposure,
bastard.
You piece of Chris. But it's fine because YouTube just demonetized your channel. Karma's a bitch, Chris. Suck it.
Got him.
It's true.
So how do those, like you mentioned, you guys have a couple different sort of podcasty ventures, and you have the movie commentaries and such. How have those performed relative to like LPs and stuff? Do those still have that same core audience, or are you noticing a different audience has been coming in for those?
Let's answer it bluntly. They all get 1,000 views, and that's about it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
compared to everything else, that's still a lot.
Well, yeah,
and that's not bad, because you guys are you're nearing 15,000 subscribers right
17.
now?
17.
We're, I think
17.
we're
I'm
just
sorry.
under which the max out at 1,000 for 17,000 isn't. It's not great. I would actually be curious to know how many of our subscribers are dead accounts. There's probably a couple thousand.
over the course of almost a decade, probably a lot.
Well, Google does wipe them, right?
Sometimes, if they delete the accounts, you'll see them drop down. But
this guy didn't know how many subscribers we had. This interview was over.
I'm a fraud. I think when I asked about this interview way back when, you guys were at 14 or something like that, which is why my wires got crossed.
Did you ask us for this interview 3 years ago? Is that how long it's taken us to do? I mean, I know I take a long time, but Jesus Christ!
No, it was like I think a year and a half ago. Okay. I was talking to Chris about it, and it was like more of like we'll think about that, and then
about a month ago, Chris told us about it. That's how long Chris sounded.
I think I brought it up, but yeah,
it was probably one of those things where you brought it up and then it was like, we'll talk about it later.
When it comes to FTCR content, it's odd because like you do get some things that take off. Like usually, if it's a Sonic LP, we can expect somewhere from about 4,000 upwards on like the first part, and then throughout the rest of the LP, we can expect maybe 2,000 to 3,000 views. If we do something like say TMNT 2003, you get about 1,000 views apart. Then there's stuff like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro. People like those games, so they check into that more often than they would these other things. Those do about a couple thousand. But if you get into stuff like, let's say, the Sky Sanctuary about Star Wars Episode 8, that gets about 1,000 views. The 50 Shades of Grey review Gareth and his wife Carrie just put up about 1,000 views. FTA and Smoothies Getting High and Laughing at Beethoven, about 1,000 views. So it's odd. I feel like no matter
Steamed Hams do.
Steamed Hams took off.
Steamed Hams has about 10,000 views, but because I stole all the footage, we can't monetize it, which is fine. The 20th Century Fox owns that footage. But yeah, it's always the thing with like the videos that take off. Oh, this is something I learned years ago. The videos that I crap out in an hour as a joke tend to do. They always do a lot better, because still to this day, the most viewed video we have. It's about 500,000 views, and all I did was take the cutscene from 06 after Silver defeats Sonic, and I just put a bunch of punching sound effects over it. It's just called Sonic vs. Silver Punchy Edition, and it's just punching sound effects where like people walk or like move their hands and shit. And I had like 500,000. I'm like, so that's fine. I made that in like 10 minutes, and that's fine. But like, all these longer videos where I slave over for weeks editing shit.
Put your heart and soul into them.
Which, you know, at this point I expect it. I honestly, and like I know this isn't going to do that well, but I want to do it, type of thing. Which, you know,
I think everybody can relate to that at some point or another.
I will say some things that have crept up that I'm glad they did creep up. One thing that doesn't happen as often, and these even happened before I joined FTCR, we have some interviews with some of the Sonic voice actors. Those have slowly crept up over time. Like our second most popular video is like a video interview with Mike Pollock, who's the current voice of Dr. Eggman. And right behind that's one with Jason Griffith, who was the prior voice of Sonic.
Yeah,
and those have a lot more effort put into it than just about anything on the channel. So it's good to see those creep up.
Yeah, those are still, I mean, there are things I would tweak now, but like those are still probably the two videos I'm proudest of that are on. I'd say probably those two and the Great Sonic Adventure Debate are probably the three best non-LP videos we have on the channel. And I'm not sure when this is going live, but yes, the freaking 06 lyric one is still being worked on. It'll be at some point, I swear to God.
Now, the reason that I wanted to bring you guys on in the first place, and the viewers have heard this over the course of the past 30 minutes or so, whatever we're at now. A lot of the stuff that you guys have gone through is very typical of what you'd see from these channels that starting out, going through these growing pains, these struggles. You guys have really, in the past 10 years, just seen it all as far as, like, you know, moving from LPs to other content, getting potentially stuck with just this Sonic fan base for a while, and now building yourself out of that. You know, dead subscribers you mentioned, every little thing that YouTubers are always worried about, especially the NewTubers users, you guys have seen. So it's really cool to talk to you guys about going through it and moving past it and beyond it. Now, I want to move on to a thing that not a lot of NewTubers have actually started doing yet that they might start in the future, and that is charity events, because you guys put out every year, at least once a year, another thing on a side channel you guys call Fund the Charity Room.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Good input.
You didn't pose it in a question. You just made a statement. What do you want? What do you want to know?
That was me throwing. I was throwing the ball up for you.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Volleyball.
So, Fund the Charity Room came out with in terms of the once a year. That's kind of just been in the last few. But I've been incredibly lucky in my life, just through, you know, family and opportunities I've had. So I always, whenever I can, you know, try to give back to people who are not as lucky as I've been and a bit less fortunate. I know.
But yeah, like the first thing that I was ever on was the Fight for Emily.
Were you in the Tracy Yardley stream?
Nope, that was the first thing I ever did with you was the Fight for Emily
so,
stream.
TJ, was that the first time we met?
It was.
And it was all downhill from there. So years ago, like we would do random like charity nights of gaming for certain people. I'm trying to think. We did ones for some of my friends. We did ones for like Tracy Yardley, Fight for Emily, which is one of the things I'm proudest about in my life in general. Was doing that stream. But in terms of like the big like week-long events, that I guess that the start of that came from, I guess, HFC, because I think they had their kind of week-long Zelda-a-thon, and then they had the Sonic-a-thon, which some members of FTShow were a part of, and then the next year after that was the big Nintendo-thon, which was like HFC and FTShow and Brain Scratch all doing this thing. And that was a lot of fun, and it was successful. And then after that, we decided to make our own kind of charity name type of thing. So we came up with Fund the Charity Room, which I want to say right here, I was against us naming us that because I didn't want the charity moniker to be FTCR. I was against that name. I think it was Smoothies as a joke said Fund the Charity Room. And I think Johnny was like, that's a good name. And then was like, yeah, that's a good name. I was like, damn it.
That's too late.
Damn it.
Well, I think Fund TCR is good.
That's what I've been calling it.
Yeah, Fund TCR. But still, like, ideally, it should be sound nothing like Fun to Find the Computer Room. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I think we've been compared to like is it for us? Like, are we raising money for
Yeah,
us?
no, that's what I was afraid of. I thought people would just be like, they're just raising money for it. We are, as as people should know, the greatest charity of all. Charity starts at home. That's why we're raising money for ourselves.
Patreon.com/FTCR.
Now, one of the things you guys did to try and move past that even was you started naming them different event names. So you had Platformania, for example, and it's this huge, for anyone who's not familiar, it's this huge week or weeks-long event where you have multiple different channels, multiple different people just streaming almost constantly. I mean, you guys don't do like the 24 hours, but you guys have someone streaming at any point for a week, 2 weeks, and you're just raising money the whole time, and it's a spectacle. It's really awesome to see.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. When we first did the first year one, the Fund the Charity Room, when it was just called, I think one of the biggest setbacks we gave ourselves was there was no real theme. There wasn't a good structure. It was just like let's just throw everything.
There's some
into a
games we
pile.
like.
Yeah, like there was, like I said, again, previous years like the Zelda-thon, Sonic-a-thon, Nintendo-thon. Aside from all we ended in thon, they have a clear vision and a clear theme. We didn't have one for 2016, which is why I think one of the first notes we had in when the first kernel of Platformania were being formed, like we need a theme because it just helps things, you know.
I would say like I see what you're saying, but I think the biggest thing that we learned is the amount of planning that needs to go into these things, because I kind of feel like the first year it was something that we wanted to do, but I guess we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants about how to put it together, and that's where we ran into complications with dates. And yeah, you're right with theming, the amount of promotion that goes into these things, just to make people aware of the event. I think that was the biggest thing about it.
Yeah, completely. Because again, we didn't really put too much time into planning for dates, which is why we started. When was it? What event was going on when we started?
It was Summer
Games Done Quick, and I think that
right.
really killed us, because normally in most of these events, your first day is your best day, and our first day wasn't that good for the Charity Room 16, and so that's why, especially for Platformania and this year, we're very conscious of we want Smoothies is a big proprietor of we need at least 2 weeks before any event to give people enough time to get another payday in. And so again, and I think what we learned from Fund the Charity Room is really it was more of a what not to do versus what to do. And so we that's when we started doing a lot more promotion. I think the thing that I think helped us a lot, which is something that I didn't make until the first year was almost over, was we didn't have a central hub for everything. It was just like Johnny would tweet out and Chris would tweet out and I would tweet out, but now since then we made an actual social media presence for the group. So now we have an official Twitter account, Facebook account, and then people who want to follow us can go there, which really I'm kicking ourselves for. I don't know why the hell we didn't think of that for the first year, but we have it now, which is a good thing. And Platformania ended up being one of the I think the most successful charity event that any of us have been a part of, which was very satisfying, very proud. But on the other hand, it just makes it that much harder for us to top it this year, which is always the worry you have.
Going to top it is always like a good goal to have, but even still, the amount you guys raise every year is just insane, even with the smaller events that you guys would do sprinkled in between, because I know you've done a couple, the holiday, what was it called? The gift bump. That's what it was.
Great name.
Thank you.
It was. I will admit that.
So even in between, you guys would do those smaller ones, but like even with Platformania, you guys raised over 20,000, or was it 25?
We hit 25, and I think maybe some donations kind of bounced.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna say 25. It sounds better.
If you watch the videos, we clearly say we beat 25,000, and like a day later it went down to like 2,600. So yeah, but to go back to your point, Bolt, you are absolutely right. It doesn't really matter how much we anything. Even if we did an event and all we raised was $50, that's still $50 more for a charity that didn't have it before.
Yeah.
So really, it is just putting our own egos aside for a second. It is just making as much money, big or little, as we can for people who need it far more than we do.
Yeah.
It's funny because Gareth always contradicts himself because he's one of the people who's always like, oh, it'd be really cool if we could beat last year's total. But then, when the situation doesn't, play itself out that way, he's always like, well, it's still more money than zero.
I wouldn't say I contradict myself because I always say that anyway. Is anything we make is good. It's just, it's always, it's good if you can beat last year because then you've raised more money.
Yeah, it creates a competition within like the audience even. I know with a charity stream I was a part of, we would like have myself and my co-host compete every now and then for like trying to say, oh, can we do this? Can we, so on and so forth, or compete for what game to play or what have you. So even just driving that, or the best thing at GDQ is normally, do you kill the animals or save the animals in Super Metroid? Like simple little competitions like that, or with Platformania, you guys started doing giveaways. I think you gave away a whole Switch at one point.
We did a Switch and a PS4, and I think because we didn't have any of those in Fund the Charity Room, and I think those especially when you have competing games, like I think Johnny had his Mega Man and Bass versus Mega Man X6.
That's right. Yeah.
I had Episode 1 versus Episode 2, and I know the day before I played Sonic 4, the last game was, I think we raised. And it's funny because if you look at our overall total and then you look at how much was donated just for these specific games, it's I think it was something crazy, like people who donated to try and get a Switch was something like 35% of all donations.
I believe that because I think when I donated, I was trying to get if I were to win, I was going to give the Switch to my buddy because I had one, and it was just like one of those things where it was like I was already going to donate, but like now you're getting them like in big lumps. I think I donated once or twice more than I was going to. And I know what the goal is with that. Like I know the goal is to, push more people to donate, and I still did it. So like there are people that don't, that are like, oh, I really want to win that Switch, and they donate trying to win, but they're still going to a good cause while they're gambling.
Oh, completely. I think we kind of look at it as like, ultimately it's just donating in and of itself should be, it should be a good enough of a reward. But if we can give more incentives and give you something back, like say, if you give money, we'll play. I mean that's the whole point of the incentive games. If we raise X money, you get more content for free. Which is and I think for this year specifically, because we'll give you some behind the scenes. Kind of gossip. We didn't plan for incentive games in Platformania very well, and so there was like a day where we were just like, who can play anything? Just like name a game we can play, And so one of the things this year is that we are actively planning like these are going to be our incentives. So if I don't think. I'm not sure if we've even decided what our base goal is, but let's just say it's 10 grand again. So if we make 10 grand, Hero goes for X amount more and X amount more, just so we're not scrambling at 2 a.m, being like, who can play a game, please? We need to fill more time.
Now, before we close out, I do want to say one more thing about Platformania, or I guess two more things, and Fund the Charity Room in general. One thing is the presence of memes that you guys have brought in to help spread the word. Like, it's almost like viral marketing. Like the amount that you guys, like, your audience puts in. Like, I know the first year, was it the Nintendo-thon?
Oh my god, the Nintendo-thon memes.
You guys had one guy who would draw 100 memes, I think in PowerPoint. And it was just seeing that, like, and this, like, hearing you guys crack up and then going on Twitter and finding them was just amazing.
That all started, it was the Banjo-Kazooie stream. Where it's just that is still one of the most fun things I've ever done. Like, cause we were just, I think at that point the Nintendo phone was going very well, and cause I think you always get people who draw things. I think on the first day I did Kirby, and someone drew me as Kirby. Oh, that's nice, but for some reason during Banjo-Kazooie things just went insane, and like I remember one.
I've never been drunk.
I remember in the morning.
I could think of a few times.
Like I remember in the morning, Johnny woke up and we're just like, "What the fuck happened on Twitter last night?"
Oh my god!
Like just the amount of crazy. I mean, that's why I made a fan art video because there were so many pictures. Yeah. It was amazing.
It was like mind blowing. Like I still remember. I think I was up that whole night watching you guys. And I still remember when Johnny came in and he goes, "What the hell happened?" And he's like pissed off.
I remember, do you remember, because we were up all night Friday, we got a few hours sleep.
Yep.
We went to a Waffle House for a big breakfast, and then we streamed for about 8 more hours that day. That was and then we had to go see the Fantastic Four reboot. That was a tough weekend for us.
Yeah, it was.
I'll add that if anyone in the NewTubers audience is listening to this, like, oh, yeah, I'll check out this Banjo-Kazooie stream. it's a lot of you had to be there kind of stuff. Like, it's a lot of drunk rambling and like, look at this thing on Twitter. It's kind of, as someone who was not there, it's hard to go back and watch.
As someone who was there, it's hard to go back and watch.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, but like, if anyone out there, like, if you just really want to see your hashtag community, like, really just rally around, like, these big charity events, they're basically like Christmas for us and like anyone who tunes into our stuff. Like, it's just a huge event. Highlight of the year every year, just with how much fun it is and how much everyone gets behind everything. It's really just incredible. Like, seeing all that happen at the Nintendothon made me want to get in on it, because I wasn't really involved that year or before that, but it was really hard to not see all that and not want to help make that better than it is and elevate it and support it.
I really have to credit Gareth in this, because I've never done anything more fulfilling in my life than being a part of these things.
Oh,
it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Which
anyway,
get TJ. I've never been more fulfilled. Yeah, all right, nerd. Let's move on.
Par for the course.
So going back to why I brought that up is I feel like, at least from my experience, having been a viewer for that, seeing all the memes that come out and all like the in-jokes and all that really created that sense of community that seemed to bring people back the next year and make it, bigger and better with Platform Mania and with the first fund, the charity run before that, obviously. So that brings me to what I wanted to ask is, both for your channel and then afterwards or beforehand for if you ever want to do a charity stream of some sort, what are the key things you would recommend that NewTubers push for?
Plan.
Yep. Enjoy it. Don't. I think you can sometimes come across videos where I think Johnny says this a lot as well. You don't go into it expecting views or ad revenue or fame. Enjoy it, because you can tell insincerity from a mile away. If people are just doing X thing to try and get famous, it never really works. So you need to have a love for what you're doing. You need to. Oh, my desk just exploded. I'm sorry. I was like, you
need to have a good desk.
You need to have. I think, as we learned from Platform Mania, you need to have a workable PC, so your streams don't crap on you when you're trying to do them.
Oh boy.
But I think you just need to be prepared. I'm not one of those people who say that you have to do X, Y, and Z to have like a good LP. But my thing is just, I don't care if gameplay is bad. If the commentary is entertaining, I think that's what most people go to an LP for. Because I mean, people can just you can find gameplay footage if you just want like a speed run or like a 100% run. I don't think if your gameplay, because I say this because I hope it's true, because my gameplay is terrible. If your gameplay isn't that good, hopefully the commentary will save it. And just try and have fun. One thing I've always said is, with YouTube in general, you come for the content and then you stay for the personality. So someone might come and say, "Oh, there's a Sonic 3 Let's Play or whatever. Let me, I like Sonic 3. I feel like watching that." And then they watch and they hear you guys interact and they become a fan through that. And then afterwards, they'll be like, "Oh, here's this game I've never heard of," or "Here's a B-movie commentary," and like you watch just for the people, not necessarily for B-movies. No joke, that's how I met my wife. My wife was B-movie? No, B-movie, but my wife was stuck on Sonic Unleashed, and so she went on YouTube to find how to do something, and she came across the HFC LP. No way. And then she started watching that, and then she was like, "These guys can't play worth a damn, but they're fun to listen to," type of thing. And then I like that statement, because that's how it should be. Everyone should just go online and get married from watching terrible LPs online. That's awesome. I had no idea. That's really cool. It's a really dumb story, so I don't tell it much, but why not? I thought I'd
the love of your life is just one comment section away.
So for you NewTubers, title pool, stalk your commenters. Oh. So I think that's about all I really had to ask as far as going through your channel's history and what you guys have seen on YouTube and what you guys can, pay forward to the NewTubers to learn from and adapt with. Is there anything else you guys want to say? Like, you can plug the channel, you can plug the charity streams, whatever you want to plug.
If you report enough of our videos, they'll take the channel down.
if you want to waste time and you hate your life, then yeah, sure, check out Find the Computer. I almost forgot what the name was there. Find the Computer Room.
Fund the Computer Room.
Fund the Computer Room on YouTube. Also, please check out our charity channel, Fund the Charity Room. Our website, the Charity Room website is, I believe it's down for maintenance. We're having it redesigned. It should be out later this year before our new event, License to Chill, comes out, where we'll be doing exclusively licensed games, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. We're currently in the middle of still planning some stuff out. We're currently working on some promotional material, so when that's ready, we think people are going to enjoy some of the trailers and stuff that we're preparing for this year. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm interested in seeing how that turns out. Licensed games are always something. I'll say that.
Which is notable.
Which is why we wanted to do it, because licensed games aren't really a genre. So there's so many things within that, that
you can do anything. Yeah,
exactly. And I think luckily nowadays licensed games have started to get a bit better in a certain degree.
A little bit. They're not terrible now. They just suck.
I want to move to the phone space.
Well, honestly. I mean, like you get some things. I know some of these aren't necessarily recent, but in like the last decade, you have things like the Arkham games, which are well respected.
That's true.
Like the last couple of Transformers games, both the Cybertron games and Devastation, was great.
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World was a great beat 'em up game. There's a lot of
that Mummy game is apparently really fucking good.
The what game?
That new Ratchet & Clank game was a very good licensed game.
Does that count as a licensed game?
It's licensed off the movie, so I'm counting it.
And
we have to edit our schedule.
Like the various Spider-Man games. Most Spider-Man games that have been made in the last couple of years have been pretty decent. Maybe not amazing, but they've been good. I'm sure there will be some crap in License to Chill that they're meme-tastic games.
Yeah,
that we'll get to. So yeah, really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And if there is a God in heaven, my PC will not crap out on me this year.
And with that, thank you guys again for joining. If you guys want to check out Find the Computer Room or Fund the Charity Room, the links will be in the description, in the comments, somewhere down there. And as always, take care.
No.
Also check out my channel on youtube.com.
Watch the skis.
And...
Thanks for listening to the NewTubers Podcast. Come back every 2 weeks for more tips, tricks, and advice on starting, building, and sustaining your YouTube career. Visit us on reddit.com/r/NewTubers or on YouTube. See you next time.